The ship creaked around him. Jonas glanced nervously at the alien machinery, half expecting something to break or spark. Instead, the dim purple lights glowed steadily, casting long, eerie shadows across the strange technology. Jonas shivered, but tried not to show it. He was the first human ever invited to witness the trial. The aliens had practically begged him to come, saying they needed someone resilient. And apparently, humans had quite the reputation. They hadn't exactly explained what the trial entailed, but Jonas wasn't one to back down from a challenge. He'd heard about humans becoming intergalactic legends, stories of their resilience, adaptability, and sheer willpower circulating through the cosmos. To be honest, he thought it was exaggerated. But if they wanted a demonstration, well, who was he to refuse? A door hissed open, revealing his alien host, Zalek, a towering figure with iridescent skin and 3 eyes that blinked out of sync. Zalek gave Jonas a once-over, scrutinizing him as if assessing whether he'd survive the next few hours. "You have one last chance to reconsider," Zalek intoned, voice sounding like gravel underfoot. "The trial is not gentle, even for the strongest." Jonas smirked, masking the nervousness bubbling in his gut. "Remember, you wanted this, Zalek?" Zalek's face didn't change. Well, at least not in a way Jonas could read. Instead, he gave a stiff nod and gestured for Jonas to follow him into a circular chamber at the center of the ship. The room was enormous, filled with devices that whirred and buzzed, all revolving around a central platform. Around the edges of the room, other alien species stood watching, their eyes wide, some whispering among themselves in languages Jonas couldn't understand. Zalek led Jonas to the platform. "This is the beginning," he said, a slight tinge of doubt in his tone. "The trial begins when you step onto the pad. It is a test of mind and will, a confrontation with your innermost fears, magnified." "Sounds like a regular Tuesday for a human," Jonas muttered as he stepped onto the platform, trying to sound more confident than he felt. The moment his feet touched the surface, he felt a jolt, like a mix of adrenaline and electricity coursing through him. Strange lights flared, and Jonas could feel something entering his mind, brushing against his memories, thoughts, and emotions. At first, it was like a warm wave, a gentle probing. Then suddenly it became darker, sharper, like claws scraping along the inside of his skull. Memories flashed before him, starting with minor fears. A childhood incident of being lost in a grocery store, that terrifying first day at his new school. They morphed and twisted, the visions becoming so real he could feel the fear washing over him again. But Jonas held on, steadying his breathing, reminding himself these were just memories, things he'd survived before. That was the secret to humanity's endurance. They felt their fear fully, accepted it, moved through it, and continued on anyway. It was that instinct to adapt, to confront, that had always set them apart. The alien spectators were whispering now, their voices filled with a mixture of awe and trepidation. One leaned over to Zalek. How was he handling the initial phase so well? Most beings falter within seconds. Zalek watched Jonas, eyes widening. It is beyond comprehension. He seems prepared. Suddenly, the intensity of the trial increased. The machine latched onto Jonas's most painful memory, the day he lost his sister in a car crash. The vision hit him like a fist to the gut. He could see her face, hear the crunch of metal, feel the guilt that had eaten away at him since. For a moment, Jonas faltered. His heart raced, and his fists clenched, nails digging into his palms. He could feel the aliens watching him, waiting for him to break. But Jonas focused on his breath, on the memory of his sister's laughter, on the strength he'd found after the loss. He steadied himself and stared down the fear. As if sensing his resilience, the machine seemed to grow desperate, flooding his mind with deeper, darker fears. It showed him visions of his death, of total isolation, of failure on a galactic scale. Jonas felt his mind buckle under the pressure, but every time he started to crumble, he found something in himself, some stubborn, immovable force that refused to yield. Finally, as if realizing it couldn't break him, the machine began to wind down. The lights dimmed, and the grip on his mind released. Jonas staggered, catching his breath, sweat pouring down his face, but he was still standing. The aliens stared in silence, their faces a mix of awe and disbelief. "How?" one of them finally said, his voice a horrified whisper. "How did he survive that? That was every fear amplified beyond measure." Jonas gave them a weary grin. Humans have a knack for pushing through, even when the odds are stacked against them. Zalek approached him, his expression one of deep respect and a little fear. "You have passed the trial in a way no being ever has. We underestimated you, human." Jonas chuckled, though there was a weight in his eyes from the memories he'd just faced. "Well, Zalek," he said, clapping the alien on the shoulder, "remember, you wanted this." As the doors hissed shut behind him, leaving a room full of shocked aliens in his wake, Jonas couldn't help but think they'd learned something today. And so had he. Resilience wasn't something you could measure or quantify. It was just something that humans had learned to hold on to in their bones, something that whispered in their minds, reminding them that no matter what came their way, they could always endure.